Welcome Lights Out family to another episode of After Dark with KK. Over the course of narrating supernatural stories from East Asia, you could see that I have accrued stories mainly from Japan or Taiwan, which were understandable as these are the countries that I have been to and shown more interest towards. Of course, the TV programs and the informative YouTube channels I have followed helped a lot with the content. I'd also done stories about two high street in Hong Kong and the scary encounters in Chongqing where the man had been haunted by a giant. I would like to do more stories from this part of East Asia in the future. Today, let's go into the glaring oversight in my segment as we go through some unexplained supernatural episodes in South Korea. While Buddhism and Christianity are the major religions in the country, and people believe in Mu shamanism as seen in many Korean movies, most people are still atheists or freethinker, but that does not diminish the amount of scary stories originated from South Korea. Today, let KK bring you some scary tales shared online from South Korea. We begin with a curse besieged a condominium block in the early 1990s. New housing developments were sprouting all over South Korea in the 1980s to the 1990s as people became more affluent due to the rising economy. The location of our serial haunting happened to a project within the city of Gyeongbok in 1991. This condominium project had a total number of 27 blocks, and the developers were allowing the residents of these highly sought-after condominium units to move in while construction was still in progress for the latter stages of development. Block 112 was one of the blocks from the initial stage when residents were moving in and the occupancy was almost full, or many assumed to be completely full. In unit number 1401 lived a newly wedded couple, Mr. and Mrs. Choi. The young, vibrant and health-conscious couple fell in love with the serenity of the location, which was ideal for their early morning jog. One day, as the pair embarked on their daily jog, Mr. Choi uncharacteristically broke his stride and stood still at barely 500 meters from their starting point. In contrast, Mrs. Choi had already ran quite a distance from her husband and was baffled by his unexpected disappearance. Worried that something might happen to him, Mrs. Choi retraced her path to find her husband still rooted at the same position from minutes ago, but facing towards the direction they came from. He was waving his hand like bidding someone farewell. Feeling puzzled, the wife approached her husband and started interrogating.
Honey, why did you stop jogging?
Oh, I met our neighbor from unit number 1301. She's a friendly lady and said she moved in just before us and her family will join her eventually.
What lady? I did not see anyone so early in the morning.
Mrs. Choi queried.
No way, she just left. There she is.
Mr. Choi rebutted while pointing at the direction the neighbor had walked towards just seconds ago. But when the married couples turned towards where Mr. Choi was pointing, no woman could be seen. This occurrence left the pair bewildered, but it was barely the break of dawn, and with the heavy morning mist, the person could have headed towards a whole different direction. The couple would reconvene their jog, not thinking much about the mysterious neighbor. Mr. Choi was a high school teacher, and it happened to be the school holidays. Therefore, he stayed at home for the remainder of the day while his wife would head out for work. When she returned home in the evening, the entire apartment was dark and lifeless. She had assumed her husband might have gone out, but when she went into their master bedroom, she could spot him lying flat on the bed.
Honey, are you feeling okay? Why are you turning in so early?
Mrs. Choi inquired, but there was no response or acknowledgement from the husband. Being concerned, Mrs. Choi would turn on the bedroom light, only to witness a sight that she would never imagine she would see. Mr. Choi was lying motionless, with eyes staring at the ceiling with a petrified expression, like he had seen something scary that led him to his demise. The cause of death after autopsy was cardiac arrest. After the tragic passing of Mr. Choi, his grieving wife was under a maelstrom of emotions, especially wondering how did her young and fit husband, who had done a health screening prior to their wedding, would suffer a sudden cardiac arrest. This led to her recalling his chance encounter with the neighbor from apartment 1301. Mrs. Choi would find herself knocking at the door of the unit, but to no avail. Undeterred by the failure of finding this elusive neighbor, she went to seek help from the person she knew who would know every single household in the building, the security guard. However, when Mr. Choi mentioned the unit number of 1301, the guard looked dumbstruck.
Mr. Choi, I think that might be a mistake. The entire building had been occupied, all with the exception of 1301.
Choi was obviously puzzled by this revelation, but she eventually moved out, with her experience being shared with the residents of Block 112. This was the beginning of the eerie chain of events to follow. In apartment unit 808 lived a couple in their 40s. A loving couple by the name of Mr. and Mrs. Song were popular in the neighborhood, as they were active in the community activities. The death of Mr. Choi sent shivers to many residents in Block 112, but no one really thought about it after a few months. Then one day, Mr. Song told his wife he saw a lady he was unfamiliar with at the lift lobby.
She asked me if I am Mr. Song from Unit 808, which I replied I am. I suppose she had just moved in, and her immediate neighbors must have told her to look for us if she needed anything. After I alighted at our floor, I looked at which level she was staying in. It was the 13th floor.
The couple did not link this to the mysterious woman from 1301. When they turned in for the night, Mrs. Song was badly bothered, with a feeling that something bad was imminent. The next morning, she shook out of slumber abruptly and turned to get some comfort from her husband, only to find him out of breath. His eyes were wide open, staring skywards, and his right hand grasping on his chest. The cause of death was heart failure during sleep. The sheer coincidence of the passing of both Mr. Choi and Mr. Song alarmed the entire residency cohort of this condominium, not just Block 112. Everyone was wary of meeting an unfamiliar woman in their midst, that there were even incidents of people mistaking newly moved in residents as the scary woman from 1301. It wasn't too long before another innocent life was claimed in Block 112. There was an university student who rented a room from an elderly couple in unit number 703. One fateful day, the student would scurry home all flustered and hyperventilating. His landlord, of course, was taken aback and asked him what had happened.
I think I seen her.
Who?
That lady from 1301. She told me herself.
How would you know? Maybe someone was playing a prank on you.
Possibly, but
The student started thinking logically after he had calmed down, and felt it was probably someone masquerading as the scary lady to go around and pull a fast one on unsuspecting residents. Guess what happened to him the following morning? Yes, he died of cardiac arrest with the same torrid expression as the two previous victims. By this juncture, there was a mass hysteria brewing among the residents of Block 112, even affecting those living in the neighboring blocks. A petition was raised by the residents to demand a full refund from the developers as families started moving out of the condominium project. It was a long and tumultuous tussle between the developers and the residents, but within a span of a few months, all the residents of Block 112 had successfully moved out. Fortunately, no further death was reported during the meantime. This was an urban legend that was spreading like wildfire back in the 1990s. However, no one could give a background of the land the condominium was built upon, or did something happen in the unoccupied 1301 prior to people moving in. This urban legend had echoes of the story I had narrated about the serial haunting that claimed lives at 2 High Street, Sai Pun in Hong Kong in episode 8 of After Dark. Do check it out if you had not done so. In After Dark episode 23, we delved into why buying antiques or pre-loved furniture can lead to some scary repercussion. Our next story came from Tina from Seoul, when a string of unexplained and creepy occurrences happened when her father brought back an antique dining table.
안녕하세요. My name is Tina. My family and I lived in Seongbok-dong in Seoul City. And despite me straddling in the middle class status, my father had a hobby of acquiring antiques from all parts of the country whenever he could. My mother, my sister, and myself were often indifferent to these antiques, but we just tolerated on my old man's indulgence as he kept these pieces in good condition and generally did not disrupt our life. His most recent acquisition was a dining table shaped like the tree stump with a whole stand to support the tabletop, which served its purpose pretty well, especially with my friends who hang out at my place for watching movies or playing console games. The dining table was great to hold the various snacks and drinks and whatever else. When the parents were out of town one Friday evening, as we ordered pizza and dak tangjong to last us through the night shenanigans. The entire evening, I could sense that my buddy Suni was a bit off her usual self and periodically took glances at the dining table. Then she braced herself and asked me,
You guys keep a pet cat or dog?
What? No way. My mother's allergic to the fur of these animals. Why do you say that? I asked instinctively.
I kept hearing scratching sounds emanating from the wooden stump the whole night. Maybe I was imagining things, but it was recurring.
Suli left early that evening, claiming she was not comfortable to stay in my place. I just brushed it off. Over the course of the next week, we started hearing complaints from Mother that she started to get tired easily, especially during noon when she had lunch at the dining table. Some instances, fatigue overwhelmed to a state that she could barely finish the food. The fatigue condition would subside soon after. Therefore, she wondered if she should see a doctor for diagnosis. She would not be needing a consultation, as we would find out what was causing this psychological phenomenon. One fine evening, our family had a feeling within Shige, and by the time we were done, it was still early evening. The sun has yet to set, but somehow, everyone was starting to get a serious case of food coma. So we all decided to turn in for the night. By 9 plus that evening, I woke up feeling parched. I stumbled to the kitchen in the dark to get a cold one from the refrigerator. Just as I opened the door of the fridge, I could audibly hear the scratching sound that bothered Sumi that day. It was indeed like an animal aggressively scratching that wooden stump of the dining table. Of course, I had to turn around to check out who was the culprit. In the dark, I could barely make out the dark silhouette of a figure crouching under the table. Then, with the feeble light emitted from within the fridge, I could finally see it. It was my sister, encroaching beneath the table like she was trying to find something there. Somehow she knew I had caught her in the act, and she slowly turned her head to look at me. What I saw at that instant was not my sister, but a frail lady with gigantic eyes and a sinister smile that stretches from one ear to the other. Do you know that creepy urban legend from Japan, Momo? I think I saw a version of her that night. I let out a frightful scream that woke up the whole block, much less my family. Just as my father switched on the lights of the house, the scary entity disappeared, and my family found me in a crying hysteria on the floor beside the open refrigerator. After coming down, I told them what I had encountered, and father went to scour the dining table for evidence, mainly to refute my claims. By this point, mother and my sister took my side, and we all hounded father to return the table, and unwillingly he obliged. He called the store where he had purchased the table, but they refused to take it back and claimed they had no information about the items they had brought in for resale, as stated in the terms and conditions. Until today, I have no idea what I seen that night, but it was truly a scene that would give me nightmare for the rest of my life.
The standard operating procedures from Lights Out Ghost Stories is always to burn it down. That cursed dining table should be put into the incinerator and burnt into ashes, then transport the ashes to the furthest coastline you ever find. Our final story of the night is a skin-crawling experience from a quartet of Malaysian youth who finally saved enough money to fulfill their long-standing dream of visiting South Korea, and had someone and go and spoil it all by saying something like "I haunt you." Kim here. Together with my buddies Tim and Jim, we were always regarded as the three musketeers in our school and social circle. With the popularity of K-drama sweeping the whole of Asia, we were also yearning to visit South Korea for the longest time and had been saving painstakingly for a trip to Jeju Island. We intended to do an all-guys free and easy trip, but Jim would go and spoil the apple cart when he got hitched and his girlfriend Cynthia would join us for our maiden trip. Cynthia though was pretty chilled and was actually fine with our laissez-faire attitude towards the trip, where we kept the itinerary wide open and not making any form of reservation for lodging. So, our first day on Jeju, we actually went around seeking a roof over our head that would fit our very tight budget. Half a day later, we actually found one in a rather secluded area of the city. A quick glance at the facade of the building, you can immediately know we are at the opposite end of a Grand Hyatt. After agreeing communication through our translation app with the lobby attendant, we managed to secure 2 adjoining rooms on level 4 of this establishment.
So there are no crumbs having the 4th floor for the hotel, huh?
Tim made a passing remark. We didn't think too much of that comment. We were just glad we have a place to stay for the night. The room distribution of this rectangular building was quite simple. There is only a single elevator shaft, and behind the lift lobby are the 2 adjoining rooms which we will be staying in. And circling this middle section is a corridor that leads to rooms that all have windows, something the middle rooms lacked, therefore a stark difference in the pricing. As obedient Chinese boys, Tim and I went through the usual knocking of door before entering, walking sideways into the room, and flushed the toilet bowl at the first instance. After a prompt exploration of the room, which took like a few minutes as it was that small, we started to unpack the things that we need for the stay. We started hearing knocking from the wall that was shared with Jim and Cynthia's room, so instinctively we assumed that they were trying to play a fool with us. We went to our juvenile state and started reciprocating with the knocking of the wall. I really did not know what was so fun about that. Perhaps we were on the high of finally landed in South Korea. Hey Tim, you go ahead first. Let me take a quick shower, I told Tim.
What? We are meeting for dinner soon.
Don't worry, I'll be fast. I could not stand the stickiness after an entire day of walking around with our luggage. After Tim departed, I swiftly went to the showers, which was therapeutic. Barely seconds since I entered the bathroom, I could vividly hear knocking at the bathroom door. Instinctively, I thought Tim had returned and needed urgently to use the toilet. Hold on Tim, I will be right out. I was true to my words and stepped out of the shower within minutes, opened the bathroom door and no sight of Tim. I was running short of time and did not think too much of the strange knocking. When the elevator door barely opened when I reached ground floor, I could hear the distinct voice of Jimmy echoing the entire front lobby.
I want my room changed,
proclaimed Jim.
Sorry sir, cannot change, more money.
This time there was a staff who could speak basic English at the counter. It was blatant that there was no way they could change room for Jim and Cynthia due to the price difference, but Jim held on to his stance and persisted with his demand. Just then, the staff called someone on the phone and felt like when he mentioned the room number to the management, their stance softened and allowed the upgrade of room with no extra cost. At this point, both Tim and I were terribly confused, yet we felt it was not convenient for either Jim or Cynthia to explain until we were at the restaurant for dinner. Jim started explaining the whole situation from the moment they stepped into their hotel room.
I did not tell you guys, but Cynthia is sensitive to the supernatural. She could sometimes see or hear the good brothers.
However, I felt the one that really scared me were those I felt were having evil intentions.
Cynthia interjected.
When we entered our room, Cynthia's sight immediately fell towards the shared wall for our 2 rooms.
It was an entity, a man with a grey shade.
She could not see his face, but she could sense the ominous dark aura emitting from him. Before I could step into the room, she hastily pulled me to the side and told me what she had seen. She said in a harsh yet panicky manner that a man had both his arms amputated, and he could sense that someone had checked in the adjacent room and started pounding his head on the wall.
I was freaked out when I heard what Jim had said. It meant that the banging of the walls were from the ghost, and we were actually acknowledging him instead of our friends. Cynthia then followed up.
I had a very bad migraine just being near that room. It had never happened to me before. I don't like that feeling and felt it was best we do not stay in that room.
This was why her boyfriend was so adamant to change the room, and the hotel management somehow knew about the supernatural issues shrouding this specific room, which was why they granted the change of room with no extra charge. Then it dawned on me. Was the knocking of the bathroom door from that particular entity as well? It bothered me so much that I did not eat much during the dinner, as I was certain I would not be able to sleep in that particular room. Still, I did not let Tim know about the knocking of the bathroom door. I felt it was best I kept it to myself until we had left that place. After dinner, we went back to the hotel. Jim and Cynthia were moved into their upgraded room. I went to ask for the same upgrade, but got rejected no matter how insistent I was. Ultimately, I paid the difference and moved out of our room as well. I felt Tim was equally creeped out hearing about the ghost with no arms. For the rest of the stay, all of us would get fidgety when we hear any sort of banging or knocking. Luckily, this episode did not blemish our trip, and we had a memorable time in South Korea for the right reasons. Kudos to Kim and his friends to continue staying in the same hotel after witnessing the armless ghost looming in their room. Once again, beggar can't be chooser. Kim had already stated that they were pinching their wallet to find the most appropriate budget hotel, especially their trip in South Korea had just begun. It was also destined for Jim's girlfriend to tag along for the trip and able to give them the heads up before they experience something more malevolent and harmful. Thank you for joining us for this South Korean Ghost Stories special. I have some more stories from the country from my research, so stay tuned for a follow-up episode here at After Dark with KK. We would like to hear from you guys if you have any paranormal experiences to share. It could be anything from ghostly encounters to dabbling with the occult to witnessing a curse unraveling, even something unexplainable like aliens or cryptids. You can always email us at the email as shown above and join us at our Facebook group to share these stories. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to this channel if you had not. We also have a Buy Me a Coffee page, so please donate some spare change. We truly appreciate it. Until next week, good night Lights Out family.